Welcome in to the Landry Hat podcast, the first official episode of the show. If you're watching here on YouTube or listening on a different platform, I appreciate you guys for being here. My name's Zach, and I'm going to be your host for the entire 2025 season. The Cowboys right now are 1-1 after their Week 2 win over the New York Giants, and what a game to talk about. What an inaugural game. We have a lot to talk about today, but first, really quickly, I wanted to give a shout out to Fansided. The people over there at Fansided are amazing for giving me this opportunity, and I'm going to be your face for the Landry Hat this season. I'm excited to work with them, and if you enjoy listening to me talk football for an entire 45 minutes to an hour, shout out to you. It's awesome to have people that support me and my work and what I do. And then to Fansided for entrusting me to handle everything with the Landry Hat this season. My name is Zach. I'm also going to have a few people on here throughout the year, some good friends of mine that are also Cowboys content creators, and also who Fansided brings me. So stay tuned for that. Keep checking in. We're going to have 2 podcasts per week. It's going to be me and some other people throughout yapping about the Cowboys. It's an awesome opportunity. It means the world to me. And I wanted to give a quick background on myself for everyone watching or listening that may not know who I am, but I'm going to be super quick and then we can talk about this game. My name's Zach. I own the YouTube channel Double Move, a channel that focuses on Cowboys content all throughout the season, along with the NFL draft during the off season. I've been doing that since 2022, and we're about to hit 45,000 subscribers over there on the Double Move channel, and I'm really proud of what I built. I've built a really nice Cowboys fan base and family over there, and that's really the main reason that I do this. I love hearing other Cowboys fans, their opinions, what they think about games, and why they love this team, and I really do it for all of you. I assume that you're Cowboys fans listening to this, and it's only made my passion and love for football and this team even stronger. So that's enough of that. Cowboys, Giants, an absolute barn burner, 40-37. Russell Wilson throws for 450 yards against this Cowboys team. Dak Prescott throws for 361 on 52 pass attempts. I mean, both quarterbacks combined for 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and nearly 800 yards, 900 yards. I'm looking at the box score right now. Insane. Russell Wilson goes 30 for 41. And I can't, I'll be all over the place. If you guys have watched me talk before, I can be all over the place. So I'm going to have to break this down. And I want to attack this wild game because there's so many things to talk about. I want to go player by player, especially on the offensive side of the ball for Dallas. And then we'll get into the Cowboys defense, where we got to go more so position group by position group because, well, if you watch the game, you know why. And I wanted to start out our first podcast here on the Landry Hat with positives first. We're all about positivity. What went right? And so let's talk about 5 players that won Dallas this game. Dak Prescott, Ceedee Lamb, George Pickens, Javonte Williams, and Brandon Aubrey. And yes, Brandon Aubrey is an offensive player for this team at this point because the dude is knocking down field goals from the Cowboys star. That's an offensive weapon. Sure, he plays special teams, but he's a weapon. What else can you say? There's no denying that. So Dak Prescott finished the day 38 of 52 for 361 yards, had 2 touchdowns, had the 1 interception, forcing the ball to Ceedee Lamb, and he took 3 sacks. And he was under pressure for a good bit of this game, having to maneuver in the pocket, step up, roll out, won the game, getting outside the pocket and running up the middle of the field and picking up, I think, about 10, 15 yards. He was poised in the pocket. Sure, the run game was good, and we're going to talk about that with Javonte Williams, but he threw the ball 52 times and had just 1 interception. I mean, people like to hate on Dak Prescott, which seems a bit unfair considering how the defense played in this. Like, you score 40 points, you should win by a pretty large margin. There's no reason that your defense should be giving up 37. Just imagine if this team was asking Joe Milton or a 2024 Cooper Rush to throw the ball 52 times. He did have that 1 interception. It didn't come back to bite them in a terrible way. The Cowboys got an interception of their own a little bit later, but I thought Dak was phenomenal considering he was under pressure, did get sacked, like I said, 3 times, but was making the big-time throws to both Ceedee Lamb and George Pickens. And that was my number 2 and number 3 players for why you won this game. Ceedee Lamb doing wide receiver 1 things. He came up really big late in the game. He was Dak's favorite target. He was choosing to throw to Ceedee Lamb in double and triple coverage over other guys on this team, although he did start getting Pickens more involved. Like, he is going to trust Ceedee to do Ceedee things. Even after a really rough week 1 where he had 3 or 4 drops, ultimately cost you that game, Dak is not going away from him because he is still undoubtedly the Cowboys' best wide receiver. Even with George Pickens on the field, who came up really big in late moments of this game, that is why Pickens is on this team. His ability to be that second option. We saw what happens when Tolbert gets targeted. Granted, he did have that 1 catch. I think there was a flag anyway, so you really didn't need it, I guess. But, shout out to Tolbert. I don't want to hate on him. But we saw what that looks like. And if George Pickens wasn't on this team, Tolbert is your wide receiver 2. And I can say without doubt, you lose that game if you don't have George Pickens. Throw the ball to him. Good things happen. Defensive pass interferences, big plays. Just throw it his way. He's a legitimate option opposite of Ceedee Lamb. And I think kind of a slow roll into this offense with how many pass interference penalties he's had. He's made impacts on games. He keeps drives alive. He can get the ball 20, 30 yards down the field drawing a pass interference, but it feels like he's been kind of slow rolled because he hasn't been making those catches, right? Sure, defense DPI, like, it helps, but it doesn't feel the same as if he made that 30 or 40-yard catch, but he's still a huge factor in you moving the ball and you scoring 40 points. He had the terrible offensive pass interference call, which they said he pushed off, but it seems really soft for a game that's that late. I can't remember if it was really late in the 4th quarter or even in overtime. Regardless, when teams are battling it out like this, calling that pass interference is insane. But he played really good down the stretch. I really want to see Shoddy and Dak and Clayton Adams to really get him more involved. And I think that points more towards Dak's deep ball accuracy. There was a throw down the sideline into the end zone where he underthrew Pickens by about half a step, and he kind of lollipopped it into the front corner of the end zone when Dak really should have driven it over the DB's head and put it on a line, because Pickens is one of those guys, he's going to win above the rim, and on that throw, there was so much air under it that he had to kind of slow play it and try to show late hands, but by that point, the ball was already on the DB's shoulder pretty much, so he just stuck his arm out, and the ball came off that. Pickens has made a difference, but he hasn't been, it's tough. Has he been the player that we expected? Yes. Like, he is getting opportunities down the field, but I think Dak's accuracy has hurt him at times. Maybe going to Ceedee Lamb in those bigger situations, at least a little bit earlier in the 4th quarter of this game. But it was really nice to see him making plays down the stretch, catching the ball on slant routes, breaking tackles, getting down the field. Like I said, that offensive pass interference call was ludicrous. Like, I don't think that gets called for the rest of the year in that exact same situation. So, shout out to George Pickens. Him, Ceedee, Dak, a huge reason that you won this game. Another big reason, Javonte Williams. I complained about the Cowboys running back 1 situation pretty much the entire offseason. I said you didn't have a ton of juice. I was glad that they drafted Jaden Blue. I was semi-happy that they brought in Miles Sanders, and then they had Javonte Williams. And I will admit, right here, in the very first podcast of Landry Hat, I sold Javonte Williams really short. He has been fantastic through 2 weeks. Now, is he that explosive, big play, take it the distance, 70, 80 yards type of back? No. But he is really good in this offense. His ability to break arm tackles, he can pick up explosive plays. Like, he's had a 30-yard run. Miles Sanders himself had that 50-yard run where he got caught from behind and it should have been a touchdown. But Williams doesn't give you that insane burst and 60, 70-yard home run touchdowns, but he does everything so well. He's pretty good catching the ball out of the backfield. He can break tackles. You're not going to bring him down with an arm tackle. He can get you more yards than you deserve on any given run. I think about the touchdown run of 30-plus yards, breaks like 2 or 3 arm tackles, takes it in. That's something that we didn't see from this offense last year, where Dak Prescott really had to do it all when you got down in the red zone, or you're having to methodically move the ball down the field every single drive because you can't snap off one of those 30-yard runs that we saw Williams hit yesterday. Then you look at the 2nd and 29, where really that was Brian Schottenheimer completely punting on that drive, but Williams, breaks a couple tackles again, skirts down the sideline for like 19 or 20 yards on 2nd and 29. Next thing you know, third and 10 is a lot more manageable than maybe looking at 3rd and 25 where you're going to run another draw play. Javonte Williams ended the game with 18 carries for 97 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, had the touchdown. Miles Sanders ended the day on 5 carries for 15 yards, 3 yards per carry. As a team, the Cowboys had 28 carries for 135 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. I love it. I'm really, really impressed with Clayton Adams, the Cowboys offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer as well, what they've been able to do with this run game. And I'm kind of like speaking out of 2 sides of my mouth here. I like Javonte Williams. Don't get me wrong. They know how to use him to his strengths. But they're really doing it without that game-changing back. Like 135 yards and nearly 5 yards per carry against that defensive line with Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter. Like, that's a pretty good running day in my opinion. It's not Saquon Barkley level, but it's enough. And I said that all offseason long. This run game didn't need to necessarily dominate games, but it needed to be good enough to facilitate the offense somehow. And I think Williams is a big part of that. I wouldn't expect you to get that from Miles Sanders. I'm really, really impressed with Javonte Williams. Shout out to him. Another a big reason that Dallas was able to hang in this game and ultimately win it. Now, maybe the main reason that the Cowboys got a W in Week 2, not falling to 0-2, getting to 1-1, Brandon Aubrey. That dude is an absolute machine. 4 for 4, 100% on field goals today, 4 for 4 on extra points, and had a long of 64 to tie the game and send it to overtime. Then he hit the game winner in overtime from like 44 yards. The Cowboys and Schottenheimer and Clayton Adams, like, I don't know who agreed to this or whatever, but they literally got to the 50-yard line and they ran a draw play, made Javonte Williams go to the left hash mark and fall down. He probably could have gotten another 7, 8, 9 yards, and they were just like, no, like, get to the left hash and fall down because Aubrey's about to knock down a 64-yarder. Like, he could have got more yards. Maybe he was supposed to. I don't know. But it seemed like the coaches said, we don't care. We're within 67 yards. We're going to send Aubrey out there no matter what. What other kicker in the league does a team trust that willingly? I mean, I can't think of a single kicker that would be like, oh, yeah, I mean, 64, of course. Like, let him go out there and kick it to send to overtime. If you don't hit it, we fall to 0-2, and we're looking at a completely different season than what we are now. That's insane. He is a robot. I'm sure, and I should have looked it up before recording the podcast, I guarantee you he is breaking some sort of records as far as hitting 60-plus yard field goals. Actually, I think I remember. He is 2 for 2 on field goals, 64-plus. The rest of the NFL in the same time span has also just hit 2 from 64. So, that's not even human. Sign him right now. Jerry Jones, write the check, highest paid kicker in the entire NFL. It's ridiculous that he's not signed. He's a free agent after this year. You cannot let that man walk out of your building. He is a huge, huge reason. Dak Prescott had to complete one pass with 20-something seconds left to get you into field goal range. That doesn't even make sense. How? They're going to have to start skinnying the goalpost. I saw a Giants fan under every single post about Brandon Aubrey's field goal saying, make them 50% skinnier. This is insane. Make it 50%. It's too easy to hit from 60 plus now. It's not easy to hit from 60 plus, but it is for Brandon Aubrey, and it's a cheat code. So that was my 5 standouts, 5 reasons that Dallas won this game. And now we're going to head over to the negatives. And if you notice, defense and negatives are kind of together. But instead of defensively talking about individual guys that lost you the game, I feel like we need to go unit by unit, because if I sat here and talked about every player that I had a problem with or guys that need to play better, we would be here all day. This would be about a 4-hour podcast, so we're not going to do that. But we're going to go player by player, or position by position, excuse me. And before we start with the real negatives, right, at least a little bit of positivity here, the Dallas defense did stop the run. They allowed 84 yards on 21 carries. They had 1 touchdown and a long run by Cam Scatabo of 24 yards. So outside of that 24-yard run, they allowed 64 yards on 20 carries, 23 of those yards going to Russell Wilson. So outside of a few plays, they were pretty sound defensively against the run. But my main question is, did they do that? Why were they so good against the run? Because the Giants genuinely didn't care about running the football at all. Like, box score-wise, we've seen way worse box scores from a Cowboys defense in terms of stopping the run. But we've also, I don't think we've seen a box score this bad against stopping the pass before. I think the Giants just completely were like, okay, we can't really run the ball. Who cares? Russell Wilson can bomb it 60 yards down the field and we'll be completely fine. We can survive doing that against this defensive secondary. So good job stopping the run. I do think this defense as a whole is better at doing that with Kenny Clark and Osa and different guys on the interior. Sam Williams is a pretty good run defender. Marshawn Kneeland as well. Like, they have that. But sticking with the defensive line and talking about that group, they're not good rushing the passer. They're really teetering on awful rushing the passer. They can't get pressure with just 4. It does not happen. They struggled yesterday to get pressure on Russell Wilson to make him uncomfortable, and he just had way too long to make throws. He was sitting back in the pocket. Like, a guy finishes 30 for 41, and the only interception that he has is really, I think, his wide receiver running the wrong route and him pretty much throwing a punt to your safety. Like, that wasn't a mistake forced by the defensive line because you got pressure and he just had to get that ball off. It had more so to do with communication. And maybe we were spoiled from having Micah Parsons, because he was getting home in 2.5, 3 seconds consistently at an insane rate, the highest in the league. And now we're looking at this defensive line and just nobody can get home. Like, I expected more from Dante Fowler, who hasn't been very good this year against the run or getting to the quarterback. Marshawn Kneeland, or Sam Williams. Both of these guys I group together because they have insane power, measurables, long arms, like really stout guys, strong, but they can get movement along the offensive line, but they can't disengage and get to the quarterback. If there was a time that you were like, this pass rush can come alive, it was against the Giants' offensive line. They were not good yesterday. I mean, Hudson had 4 penalties on the first drive. They took him out. They put in like a mid-rounder in Marcus Bowe, and they still couldn't get home. Russ had all day to throw. And we're going to talk about Matt Eberflus in a little bit, but he's got to find a way to dial up pressure, right? And he's just not helping them get pressure with 5. or 6, sending the house, manning up on the outside, playing cover 1. Like, it's just not working. And like I said, we're going to talk about Eberflus in a little bit, but for now, it's really players over plays. Guys that need to play better over what the defensive coordinator is calling and expecting them to do. Dante Fowler, non-existent. Sam Williams, non-existent. James Houston has been pretty good, and this falls back on Eberflus, but he doesn't play enough. Donovan Ezeraku, pretty non-existent in the pass rush. They've done good stopping the run. They haven't done good getting after the quarterback. And when you have a quarterback like Russ, and I promise you this defense is going to play quarterbacks much better than him, when they're not feeling the pressure with Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson on the outside against that secondary, they're going to eat you alive. And we saw that to the tune of 450 yards. Neighbors had 9 catches for 167, 18.6 yards per catch with 2 touchdowns, a long of 48. Wan'Dale Robinson, 8 catches for 142 yards, 17.8. That is a slot receiver, by the way, averaging almost 18 yards per catch. That's not an outside guy. That's not an X receiver. That's a slot guy beating you up down the seam because your safety is not anywhere close to where he's supposed to be. You have a safety playing center field that's really a box safety. So, 8 catches, 142 yards, nearly 18 yards per catch. He had a touchdown and a long of 50. You look at how Eberflus likes to play defense, it's not going to work without pressuring the quarterback. That too high shell with zone coverage or playing cover 3, zone coverage everywhere, playing the sticks, not wanting to get beat deep. Like, if you can't speed up the quarterback with 4, they're going to find someone down the field. Someone's going to find a soft spot in zone coverage. So, we're going to talk about him in a little bit, but Eberflus has got to figure something out. And that brings me to the linebacker group, where Eberflus is supposed to be a linebacker whisperer, all right? They haven't been good either. Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, Maris Leofau played a little bit more yesterday, Damone Clark as well. That group hasn't been good against the run. Your defensive line has been good. You've been able to clog up running lanes, and they've been able to make plays like Jack Sanborn getting downhill and running free to the running back. Yes, he's good doing that, but he's been put in positions where he has to cover tight ends, and he's biting on a play-action run, sinking up so far to the defensive line that they're throwing the ball behind him because he can't get back and make a play for the tight end. He hasn't been good. Kenneth Murray seems kind of lost in run defense a lot of the times. Now, when he does read it right, super athletic, really, top-tier athleticism at the linebacker position, but he can't read. He can't react, and he also can't cover. Like, him in zone coverage, he looks lost. He doesn't, understand, I guess, reading quarterback's eyes or where he's supposed to be filling in zone coverage or kind of realizing the route combinations that are happening underneath or behind him. He just seems kind of lost. Maris Leofau hasn't been getting he played 6 snaps in week 1. I need to go back and look at the snap count for week 2. He was out there, but again, this kind of falls back to playing that soft zone coverage, not allowing anything deep, but also just allowing everything underneath. If we're going to talk about the pass defense, I need to start bringing the defensive backs in here because I've mentioned it a couple times. Deron Bland was obviously out for this game. You still had Trayvon Diggs. You still had Donovan Wilson. Kyer Elam was out there. That was bad. All right, there's no getting around how bad the pass defense was. And a lot of that, we're going to start grouping all of these together. Matt Eberflus, that goes to him. Are guys in the spots that they really need to be? You look at how Eberflus likes to play defense. I explain it to high shell, or maybe they'll run cover. Maybe the one time they do run cover 1, they have Donovan Wilson playing center field, or they're playing cover 3, and you still have Donovan Wilson on his 1/3 playing center field. That's not his strength. Then you move down and you see Diggs as a zone corner. You see Bland when he's healthy as a zone corner. That's not where those guys are the best. Diggs is not super explosive, stick his foot in the ground, get downhill, and crash on a hook. That's just not his game. He's been the best, and you look at the three guys I just mentioned with Wilson, Diggs, and Bland, you look at their best years in the pros, and they've had really good years. They were with Dan Quinn, a guy that likes to switch it up, plays a good mix between man and zone coverage, but they're at their best when they're manning up on the outside, get in the receiver's face, and try to stay on their hip. That's where they're the best. And right now, with Eberflus, it's just zone. Eberflus did not play a single snap of man coverage in week 1. I'm not sure the numbers have come out on week 2, but I can guarantee you it wasn't very high. He just doesn't do that, and it's not working for this team. Coverage is too soft, too willing to give up the short play, but they're terrified of giving up the deep ball. But then they somehow still give up the deep ball. It doesn't make any sense. Wilson threw the ball 41 times and averaged 11 yards per attempt. That doesn't make any sense. For a team that is terrified of giving up the big play, so they give you everything underneath, and we saw it in week 1 against Jalen Hurts, and I keep bringing up that game because first half was bad against the Eagles. The second half was better, and I think that's because Eberflus started doing different things. Stop giving up everything underneath and rallying to the football, and it started to change, and that's what I want to see going forward. So what is all this game? What does it mean for the season, for the Cowboys? What do they have to do to maybe become a contender, a playoff team? For the offense, have a historic year. They're really good on offense. With Clayton Adams' run design, with Pickens, with Lamb, Jake Ferguson, I can say every now and then. I'm not worried about the offense. I am worried that they're not going to be able to keep up with that pace because they're literally going to have to be at a historic level. Go back and look at the Bengals 2024 offense and their offensive production with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. Whatever their numbers were, I haven't looked because I don't watch Bengals games. But I guarantee you it's going to be pretty close to what that is. That's what your offense is going to have to be to compete throughout the year. For the defense, it needs help. And other than Jadeveon Clowney, who the Cowboys signed midway through this game, that tells you anything about what they thought about this. It needs help, and it's not coming from outside the building most likely. Unless they make an absolutely insane trade one of those first rounders, and go and get a defensive player, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. Like, where do you need help at? Like, sure, Bland was gone, so maybe you get him back. Okay, Savon Ravel, okay, maybe you get him back a little bit later in the year. Oh, Overshown comes back. I don't know where you would get that help. I don't know what guy makes a huge difference. You got a really good defensive tackle. What we were super worried about coming into the year was stopping the run. Kenny Clark has done a really good job at that. Other guys have kind of facilitated with Jay Toia, and Osa has played the run pretty well for the most part. The defensive ends, too. I don't know where you go from here if you were to try to get better from outside the building. You're really just relying on a couple of things, right? Either Eberflus does something different, which is probably going to have to be the thing that if this defense wants to change, or guys are going to have to play better. And it's tough because you're asking a defensive coordinator that has had success in the past. Maybe he doesn't have the personnel, but a guy that's had success in Eberflus to change who he is as a football coach, from a philosophical standpoint of football, asking him to change who he is. And I'm not sure that's possible based on what we've seen. Maybe the second half of the Eagles game is hope for that, but I just don't know where you go from here because you aren't talented enough rushing the passer, and those guys aren't playing well enough up front. So it puts you in a really tough position. Although I would argue that even if you were getting to the quarterback, they're beating you so bad underneath because your linebackers can't cover or your corners are playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage with a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. I mean, they run a quick slant, it's over. So it's a combination of things, and maybe that's why I'm a little frustrated with this game. Maybe that's why we've spent so much time talking about the defense this time. But it just boils down to excuse me, you got torched by Russell Wilson for 450 yards. Just the second time in like his decade and a half in the NFL, you sit back and play coverage, you can't get home with 4, and he torches you for 450 yards, something that he hasn't done since 2017. He's done it twice in his 10 or 13, 14, 15 years in the league. It's concerning. So offensively, I'm not worried in the sense of they can score points. They can score 27, 30. They might have weeks where they score 35 points. I'm not worried. I am worried that they're not going to be able to keep pace with that because that would be an insane clip to be scoring. Defensively, I'm extremely, extremely worried going forward. So I think the big question and what I want to answer in today's podcast, first podcast here at the Landry Hat Fan-Sided, where you go from here. Number one, I have 3, by the way. Number one, Ceedee has been about change since he got here, about what's best for the players, putting guys in a spot to be successful. I think we've seen that offensively. I mentioned how with Javonte Williams, they've done a really, really good job of putting him in positions to be successful. George Pickens, they've given him shots down the field. Maybe Dak's downfield accuracy hasn't helped that a whole lot, but they've put him in a position to get defensive pass interference calls or to make a play. It just hasn't worked out so far. They've done a good job of that. They've gotten Ceedee the ball. I mean, he's had 2 100-yard games. Defensively, though, having Donovan Wilson play center field and getting burnt like for 17 points, I really think he was responsible for 17 of those points in the second half. He's not in a position to be successful. Diggs is not a zone corner. Bland, not really a zone corner either. So you're either going to have to completely change what you're doing or find the guys in the locker room that can do what you do well. I think Ceedee's got to talk to Eberflus and really sit down and dissect and figure out why you had 4 or 5 blown coverages in a defense that isn't supposed to allow big plays, right? If this was Jordan Love and he threw for 450 and you somehow won this game because your offense was so good, I would probably throw my hands up and be like, wow, the defense is concerning. Jordan Love had 450 yards, but also it's Jordan Love. You know, he gets hot. He's a good quarterback. I can't say that about Russ. I can't say that he's a good quarterback because he just scored 6 points against the Commanders. Your old defensive coordinator that I don't think has the talent that the Cowboys defense does. I think, Ceedee, if you're going to be about change, not saying fire Eberflus, I've seen that a lot. You're just going to have to talk to him and really figure out where you go from here and why guys aren't playing up to the level that we've seen them play in the past. Number 2, where you go from here, offense, got to play ball control football. If there's anything that they can do going forward other than scoring 40 points a game, it's knowing that you have to play the ball control game. Ceedee's got to know that. Clayton Adams has got to know that. Keep the defense off the field as much as possible. With Lamb and Pickens, you're built for the big play or the chunk plays. Like, this offense can pick up 15, 20, 25, 30 yards from those 2 guys. But I think we're going to have to change a little bit with that. I love the big play. I love easy offense. It's awesome. And I've probably never said this in my entire life, but you're going to have to grind out drives running the ball more often than not. To keep this defense off the field, it needs to be some sort of ball control. I don't even know what to say about that. That goes against everything that I preached last season, where they were having to methodically drive down the field because they were running for 2 yards, for 3 yards, for 4 yards, and then they'd pass the ball for 5, and they were having 13, 14 play drives. Last year it wasn't on purpose. They just couldn't get the big play. Now this year with Pickens and Lamb, they're getting the big play. They're moving down the field really, really fast. I'm not saying dumb down your offense at all to where you're not getting explosive plays, but I think now you have to be aware that you got to play some sort of ball control because you put your defense on the field, you go 3 and out, you don't extend drives, and you put those guys out there against an offense that's cooking, or not even one that's cooking. The Giants weren't cooking. Offense, be aware. Ceedee, go talk to Eberflus, please. And then number 3, it really comes down to guys got to play better. I've talked about the defensive coordinator so much in this video, but at some point, it's player over plays. You got to have the talent to do what you want to do. And maybe if Eberflus had the talent, or guys who started playing better, this would look completely different. But defensive line-wise, Nealon, Williams, Fowler. On the back end, Diggs, Elam, Bland when he gets back. You gotta play better. Diggs, I think, had a blown coverage. I know he got beat by Neighbors on the outside on a deep ball to the end zone. Elam, I don't know if he had a blown coverage or he was expecting, or he was supposed to have safety help over the top, or he wasn't supposed to have safety help and he just let the guy run past him. I don't know, but they gotta play better. Whoever was in the wrong, whether it's Elam or it was one of the safeties, if Malik Hooker was supposed to be playing the deep half or Donovan Wilson was supposed to be playing the other deep half, somebody's got to figure it out. Somebody's got to play better. And they need to go over the nuances of those coverages. Guys need to understand where they are going and what they're doing. And I don't think that's happening right now, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I love the Cowboys coaches on offense. I love the talent that they have on offense, and I think they have talent on defense. I really do. But it has not shown up, except for maybe a half against the Eagles. And I put that on Eberflus doing a little something different. But it just hasn't shown up. Guys got to play better. So, before we end this show, I want to do my final recap and give you my overall overarching thoughts about the game. It was an up and down one. And I will say, as mad as I was that they gave up 37 points, I will say 1-1 is much, much better than 0-2. You have Bears next. It's a pretty good offense. If Caleb Williams can kind of pull it together, throw on time, I think you got a problem because Ben Johnson is a good offensive coordinator. Packers, that's a tough game. Then you play the Jets, who aren't very good. Panthers, who aren't very good. These next two games, if you were to lose the one against the Giants, I don't have a lot of hope going into the Bears game. I have zero hope going into the Packers game. You win this one, you're at 1-1. The Bears, you get a win there, you're looking at 2-1. You're sitting pretty, in my opinion. You know, the Packers come to town, come to Dallas. You maybe lose that game, you're at 2-2. But if you lost the Giants game, you would have been at potentially 0-4. And your playoff hopes are completely dead. I don't think we've ever seen a team come back and make it to the playoffs from 0-4. But 1-3, not impossible if you lose to the Bears and Packers. But 2-2, I am rejoicing if you get to 2-2. Going into the Jets game, the Panthers game, I think you can beat the Commanders. The Broncos just lost to the Colts, although I think the Broncos are going to give you trouble because of their defense. And then Bo Nix on the other side. 1-1, my main point is much, much better than 0-2. Yesterday, I was so done with the game, I'm like, I would rather them just lose than tie because I would have to repeat 0-1-1, but it feels good to get a win. Even as up and down as it was, it does prove that this team can persevere, that they can, give up so many plays defensively and still hang in there on the offense, but also, get an interception, even though if it was mainly Russell's fault, get an interception. Brandon Aubrey is an absolute weapon. I just wish the defense was better. This team would be so much better. So that's all I got for you guys today. That concludes the first episode of the Landry Hat here on Fansided. I'm so excited to work with Fansided and the Landry Hat, be in the face of the Landry Hat for YouTube. I'll be over on TikTok as well if you guys want to check that out. You can listen to me here on YouTube or other places that you get your podcast. The audio version will be there as well. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. If you enjoyed it listening, please download the podcast. That way you don't miss a single one. Once again, thank you to Fansided for giving me their platform this season, allowing me to share my thoughts. It's really an honor that they trust me this much. Fansided is a company that I've read their articles before. They're starting to get into the media space more and more. I'm honored, honestly. Thank you to them. Thank you to everybody that sat here and listened. If you're at work, you're at home, wherever you are, thank you. You can check me out at Double Move. I post YouTube videos over on my channel. I'll have more here on the Landry Hat, TikTok, YouTube, podcast, all of it. Until next time, guys, go Cowboys. We're probably going to be breaking down Cowboys versus Bears here really, really soon on the channel, so make sure you are subscribed and you've downloaded the podcast wherever you get that. I appreciate it, and I love you all, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye.